Hello. Hi. I'll be today's host. My name is Sam Kasimola. I created this invite that you would have seen today. And thank you all so much for joining. Thank you. I want to introduce our panelists today. We have Dakshish. Dakshish just is graduating high school. So you might be wondering, okay, what does a high school student know? Okay, this is not an ordinary high school student. Dakshish has won multiple FBLA competitions. He was the last year's winner of FBLA. It starts for future business leaders. Dakshish, please add as I say things because I may miss a little couple of little things. And Dakshish was recognized by various CEOs, including the CEO of Publix, and won various awards competitions. Is a TEDx speaker, so he was a TED Talk speaker. He is invited to fly across the nation. I think the last he did was in Washington D.C. if I'm not wrong, right, Dakshish? Okay,
Yep.
so yeah, and he has won various awards, scholarships, and a bunch of other cool stuff. I'll also let Dakshish fill in his introduction, and also our second panelist and our the senior most nerdy tech panelist that we have today is Joey De Villa.
Hello.
I told him this afternoon, I cannot think of a single person in Tampa. And trust me, I know a lot of people in Tampa. I've been here 13 years and I've been running two of the biggest and the oldest meetups in Tampa for a very long time. And I couldn't think of a single person who would be more suited for this talk than Joey. The Global Nerdy, which has millions of views across the period and tens of thousands of subscribers. And anything tech, he knows it. Python, talk about
Indeed.
development, talk about anything like anything that you tech. Joey knows everything about it. And
Not re- you flatter me, Sam. Thank you, but no, not everything.
yeah, Joey is also a developer advocate. At least most things about tech, right? So nobody knows everything, of course, but most things, the most amount of things known by few, like by a single person. So I really like Joey. He's also a community builder. Joey runs a bunch of meetups himself and a huge and invests a lot in the community. As I said, I couldn't think of anybody who does more for the tech community in Tampa than Joey. He was also the winner of Tampa Tech Champion
Okay.
in the last event. So thank you, Joey. Okay, I know I did, I guess, introductions, but I'd also like you to do introductions from your perspective. And I'll do a kickoff of the topic after that. And I have a couple of slides and a couple of research that I pulled up from various sources. And I will set some context or pretext, and then I will let the panelists go ahead and share their knowledge. So, Dakshish, do you want to do a quick intro?
Of course. So, I'm now a graduating senior in Tampa, Florida. I'm moving on to the University of Florida. I've given talks across the nation on AI and specifically what AI means for students that are around my age and what it means going forward for our jobs, majors, and whatnot.
Oh, that was a humble introduction. Thank you, Dakshish. Okay, Joey, do you want to go, please?
Okay. Well, let's see now. I have just started a developer relations job at NetFoundry. And that is at the intersection of cybersecurity and AI. And I like helping out. I like helping out the tech community. And this is a habit that I picked up from my time living in Toronto, where we came back from the dot-com bubble and we were homesick for the cool stuff that was happening in San Francisco and in Austin. So we decided, let's build up our own community. And when I moved here, I just borrowed all those tricks and brought them here. And also, by the way, thank you, Sam, for organizing this. And Dakshish, yeah, you're in for an adventure.
Awesome, thank you. And a fun fact about Joey: Joey went to college with Elon Musk's brother. So
And
that's
Elon. They both were there at the same time.
and Elon.
Queen's University, yes.
Yes. So if all of y'all can go home and say, "Hey, today I heard someone who went to college with Elon Musk." So so that's a fun fact about Joey that I tell everybody. Okay. Okay. So having said that, I want to share my screen and
Sure.
set some context. And of course, pretty much most of this research was done by AI. So blame AI if it's not accurate. Okay, so there's an Anthropic report that was published last month or the month before. I think this was a March report. So in this report, they basically say that a bunch of jobs. So if you see this blue stuff here, they're talking about theoretical AI coverage, and this red stuff here, it is already observed AI coverage. And they did this little chart where they say that a lot of management jobs, a lot of business and finance jobs, computer and math, architecture, engineering, life and social sciences, legal. Okay, legal. I know there's a lot of things to interpret, but on the face value, let's take it as legal. Arts and media, office administration, and a little bit of sales. A lot of these jobs would be the ones that could be affected the most by AI in the near future. And then there's a bunch of other things that I wanted to share, like, okay, uh, what are the skills? Again, I'll probably cover this towards the end. I don't want to take away from the talk that our panelists can give us, but there's a couple of there's few careers or few types of jobs that would be hard to be impacted by AI. For example, I don't see your HVAC technician getting replaced by AI anytime soon. So similar, and few other things similar to that. So that was one point that I wanted to make, share this report. And the second thing that I wanted to make was the first time I heard the word Luddite. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Luddite.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. So there's three major things that I did some research. So I heard it from Joey. So Joey, not to steal your thunder, I'll let Joey get into the Luddite revolution. So there's something similar to what's happening now has happened in the past. So before I talk about Luddites and give some basic again, I'm not going to get into the details. I'll let Joey do that. But before that, I also have my cousin. He's also Sam. I was just on a call with him about an hour ago, and he told me some of the amazing, crazy things. He works at one of the major card companies. So Sam, are you on? Can you hear me? Okay. So Sam Roy, are you on or no? Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I was just talking about you. So I just heard my cousin talk about he works at a major credit card company and some of the amazing things that AI is doing at his company. And I've seen AI. I run a tech services company. I look at a lot of SMBs. We do a lot of AI call center automation and a lot of basic automation that could have been done without AI if we really wrote code around it. But then there's also things at a large scale being done. Sam, do you want to do a quick 1 or 2 minute uh, uh, description of the things that you told me in your own words that you said?
Yeah, sure. Sam. So hey everyone, Sam Samuel Roy myself. Been working in the US and IT for about 7 years now. Uh, I started off background in DevOps, cloud, Kubernetes, and right now I'm leading an SRE effort with one of like Sam said. Actually, I was working for a credit card company. Right now, I'm working for a top five healthcare company in the US, and I'm working as a consultant here. So I think in line with he didn't tell me a lot, but just to open up, I'm no pro. I'm also exploring this AI space, but I've definitely seen things change over the last 6 years, right? How AI is shaping things from a product standpoint, from a engineering standpoint, and also from a resourcing standpoint. I don't know the audience here, but from a product standpoint, I think even if I have to talk about product owners and Scrum masters, how they've been functioning, leveraging the basic uh, tools or basic functionality of, let's say, things like Copilot or Chat GPT. You know, people who used to struggle to write a mail of 4 lines are sending emails of 4 paragraphs these days. And similarly, discussions, right? Whether it is diagramming, whether it is whiteboarding, brainstorming sessions, whatever is available. And I think we don't realize that, but a lot of the tools that we use in our environments are already integrated with all these AI capabilities, right? Because what we use as uh, users, whether it is VS Code or IntelliJ or, and Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, they have their own integrations with AI. So things are changing, but I'll quickly give a real-time example what I saw the other day. So, like I remember before joining this company 4 years back, I was leading a offshore team of about 4 people, and it was a data engineering team, and we used to have a couple of sprints, right? We used to I used to assign them tasks on creating test cases and things like that. And before leaving that company, I remember that was the first time I was part of a demo. Like there was like a showcase. I remember that's what they called it, like Copilot showcase, where they literally showed how Copilot developed some test cases, you know, for a specific function or method. I don't remember exactly. And my team was surprised because that's what they used to work over a whole sprint, couple of a whole sprint. And these days, that is what is happening in CVS right now. We are pushing out applications like it's nobody's business. We get a complaint, and instead of having something as a feature, I mean, there is a whole lot of back and forth debate on how it should be handled, but you have applications being pushed out and prod in like within few weeks. So that's how things have been changing. I mean, again, I don't have too much context of
Okay.
what this is about.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sam. Okay. So to summarize, I probably should have given more context, but
Yeah.
to summarize, Sam, one thing is things that used to take months are now taking days, and things that used to take like 10 people are now taking 1 or 2 people. And I'm noticing this. We build a lot of custom applications. Something that used to take a team of 4 people about a month, we can literally do it by one person within 2 or 3 days. So that's the amount of crazy leverage that AI is giving. So in regards to that, again, I'm definitely, I know we've taken way too much time before the panelists speak, but one last thing is there's about 2 or 3 different times in history something like this has happened. One of them I heard from Joey, which was called the Luddite Revolution, where a lot of textile companies, the textile weavers, like people who used to weave, basically when machines, automated looms were invented, lost a lot of jobs and were pushed into long-term poverty. I did some research on what happened to them. Yes, they were in long-term poverty. And then there was also in 1950s to 1990 when tractors were invented, thousands of farm workers who were digging up and doing stuff manually were replaced by this automatic machines, and a lot of them were replaced by farm machines. And if you saw the movie Hidden Figures, right? It's one of those movie about NASA and a group of female African American engineers that were manual calculators that did math for NASA. When the IBM computers came, they were replaced by 400 people lost their jobs. Of course, some of them were retained to validate the results that the computers were giving them. But so there were at least 2 or 3 examples in history. And also there was this in 1905 when the automatic switchboards were invented. So when previously people called somebody, there was no automatic switchboards. They asked for what is the extension and manually connected the wire. And most of this were female employees. So then somebody invented the automatic switchboards, and a lot of them lost their jobs. And eventually, yes, they had to. When I did some follow-up research, they moved to lower income skills. Again, whatever I said may not be fully true because there's only so much history that's written about them. But having said all this, I'd like to open up the floor for Dakshish and Joey. No fixed order. Please feel free to take the mic as you feel. So, what do you think is going to happen in the near future? Because Elon Musk is already talking about universal basic income. I think even Mark Zuckerberg said something along those lines. And there's a lot of people who came from poverty to upper middle class by getting into IT industry that pays better than other jobs. So, we wanted to know how, what's most likely going to happen, and then how can we protect ourselves?
Yeah, I think that the first thing, that you said, a lot of people take IT jobs, and the major distinction right now that is not being seen in the media or anywhere else is that there is a difference between tasks and jobs. So we can automate tasks, we can use AI to increase the efficiency of tasks, but it is not certainly replacing certain key essential roles. Like, for example, the role of a software engineer, which is to fundamentally solve and fix problems using software code. And that is something that, yes, AI can enhance, but it's not something that we can fundamentally replace as a whole. And I think that's an important factor to consider when we're having this discussion.
And yeah, absolutely. There is a difference. Yeah, there is a difference. And yeah, when we are writing software, I mean, a lot of what the AI is doing is the typing of the code, and that's not really the important part. The important part as software engineers, and actually in a lot of other fields, is we are thinking about the business that we're working in and the problem we're trying to solve and the ways in which those problems get solved. So that is still something that AI is terrible at and may yet be terrible at for a long time. We have been surprised by what AI can do, though. So it's something it's definitely something to keep in mind. And while I'm at it, I don't know how many people here have seen, it's been making the news, especially for us here in Florida, the University of Central Florida commencement speech, where the commencement speaker was talking about AI is the future, and she got booed by the students in the audience. I mean, she was talking to an arts and humanities graduating class, and that was and of course, these are people who are seeing jobs getting taken away from them, or at least there are companies using AI as the excuse for this is why we're not hiring. It's because your job can be done by AI, and that's a bit of a challenge. I think one of the things is for me and Sam, our generation, the new technologies opened doors. They opened jobs that did not exist before. The real challenge is in the age of AI, the new technology looks like, at least right now, it is closing doors to people who are new to the job market. We need to figure out how to change that state of affairs.
Yeah, I'd just like to bounce off of that point, speaking a little bit for the younger generation, because I know you guys said that, the technology boom had increased opportunities for your generation, but for ours specifically, now we're looking at the mass growth of data centers, and we need to upgrade our power infrastructure in the United States. So actually in the United States, we're seeing a large growth in demand for electrical engineers, industrial engineers, and anybody that can coordinate that growth of our power infrastructure, and specifically building all these data centers to support the new demand for AI. So, from a younger perspective, it is definitely exciting to see a lot of these new opportunities pop up because of how fast AI has been growing. And yeah.
Perfect. I see someone raise their hand. Do you want to take questions now or take it towards the end? Either way is fine with me.
I'm good with now.
Okay. So, Manoj, I saw you raise your hand. Do you want to ask? Okay. Manoj, yeah.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes.
Getting back to the point of it's not replacing all the jobs, but you still need quality engineers, like design aspect of it, verifying data, AI is generating, pushing across. Let me give you a little background. I'm a civil engineer, background in technology and IT, as well as engineer. So I'm kind of old school, where I went to a formal 4-year degree in engineering, transportation, roadway construction aspect of it. But I still use day-to-day IT background, just because Excel, PowerPoint, you name, AutoCAD. So you have to be fluent in IT just to get the work done from an engineering standpoint. But whoever designs the code, AI, you can always tell the good code from the bad code. If somebody got a certificate from some external trade school, you can tell the code as opposed to a software engineer or somebody went through the discipline of writing the code. Okay, what's the project code? What's the end budget requirements? All these factors come into play, and you still need a solid degree. So it's not going to replace those careers, but there will be limited roles in that. So how do you transition over to that? My other question is the data centers is, okay, you have a lot of consumption of power. At what point does AI becomes more expensive than the person doing the work? Because we never addressed the issue. So that's my other question I have.
Well, for starters, AI looking at how much tokens cost, actually AI is already more expensive than people. It's just that right now, in order to get customers, the AI companies are selling their services at a loss in order to get us hooked, and they are slowly bringing up the prices. We've already seen that in the software world with Claude Code, where they were experimenting with the cheaper accounts no longer being able to use it. And if you really want to use Claude Code, they're saying, oh no, we want you not to use the $20 a month account. We want you to spend $100 or $200 a month. So that's already beginning to happen. We'll have to figure out what's going on. We also need to get businesses off this idea where they're asking people to use AI as much as possible and spend tokens. That costs money. I mean, you will never see a business go, oh, you know what, we should give everybody a raise. I mean, why didn't they do that instead? So that's a challenge. The other thing is, we also have a challenge, at least here in North America, and I cannot remember the name of the writer who talked about this. He said that our government in North America, US and Canada, I'm thinking both, is largely run by lawyers, whereas in China, their government actually is largely run by engineers. So they have a different approach. And that's why they tend to put higher priority on engineering projects. I mean, even if we had the political will to build a lot of these electrical generating stations, I don't think we could build them anywhere near fast enough. Not the way we do things right now. And that is a big challenge. And for those of you who want to be engineers, remember, F equals M times A and P equals I times V. Get to work, learn math.
Yeah, just tagging onto that point, I was gonna say, a lot of these data centers as well, you're not typically replacing just one person, right? I mean, these data centers provide power for multiple different, models or whatever to run at the same time simultaneously. And because of that, eventually, as this technology ends up maturing and the data centers are built and the infrastructure is in place, it will obviously be cheaper to just run it off of an AI model. But that is obviously not for the near future, and that is more far away than we can think of right now. But with that being said, I still do think that integrating AI to optimize workflows is the current biggest thing, not really say replacing human beings altogether.
Yeah. So on these terms, so everybody knows that we're going to survive, right? What do we need to survive? We need food, we need shelter, we need clothing to survive. So yes, we're going to survive. No one's going to die. I mean, maybe in extreme cases, but for the most part. But the problem is a lot of people who are in this well-paying jobs. For example, I probably have to look up the exact numbers, but there's probably millions of people who are in IT jobs, like who have a job that pays 6 figures. Pretty much everybody makes 6 figures in IT, unless they're either for whatever reason, but most people, right? At least I would say 80% in a decent, if they have enough experience. So what happens to people who have families, kids, mortgages, and start losing jobs in the near future? I'm not talking about 20-year future. What happens in the 5-10-year future, where there's mass unemployment, because there's already thousands of people that are losing jobs. We are seeing news every single day. And again, these people are not somebody who are low skilled. They are highly skilled people. And I'm looking at people who are in the job market for many months and some of them many years. Yes, if somebody has low expenses, they'll be fine. No kids, they'll probably be fine, because kids are expensive. As if any of you have kids, I have 2 kids, I know. So what happens to people who have a pretty hefty mortgage and have kids and don't have the, of course, if you are single and if you are living with roommates, it's a luxury, right? Your expenses are less than probably 1,000 a month, and that's a luxury. So what happens to people who have heavy expenses and who are relying on an IT job, and now that IT job is no longer the thing it used to be about 5 years ago?
Well, I think part of it is in a lot of cases, AI is just the excuse. There are a lot of it is just simply cost savings. And when you lay off people, especially if you're a publicly traded company, your share price tends to go up. And in fact, yeah, when I got laid off at Auth0, actually about 10% of the company got laid off at Auth0 with me. And the share price went up, in one day, it went up 5%. And in a week, it went up 10%. And I like to brag that my last action at that job was to increase shareholder value. But yeah, that's part of the problem. It's an excuse. AI has largely just been incrementally boosting productivity. But as far as what happens to skilled people who don't have the opportunities or the necessary connections, what I've seen so far is that they end up in this precarious part of the gig economy, where they either take contract work, or they work with the ever expanding number of gig companies, from from Fiverr to DoorDash to the slightly better paying ones where they hire professionals. That's why these services are expanding, but the problem is it's not a permanent solution, and a lot of it falls to luck. And I think we need to build systems to protect those people, but I just don't know. I don't know what those systems are. I think that universal basic income is an interesting idea, but universal basic income is largely promoted by people who own large companies. But when you ask them who's going to provide the money, they automatically throw the responsibility onto the government. So everybody's passing the problem around.
Another question I have for you is, you brought up a good point, Joe, is that what happens if the lower paying jobs are replaced by AI? What happens to the company when senior officials leave, who are like the management and so on? They need to have people under them to promote them to do the necessary work. So if you replace the AI jobs in those remedial tasks, you don't have anybody to promote the internal companies. And companies are hopefully will realize that sooner than later that they shot themselves in the foot. At what point do they realize that?
I don't think it's shooting themselves in the foot, in the sense that they are still, getting in fresh hires. It's not just the volume that they originally used to get, because right now the only thing is the volume of the incoming, classes are changing. And that's something that I see with a lot of people that I know that are now applying for entry-level analyst positions at firms, or whether that be entry-level programming positions. It's just the actual volume of people have shrunk. But obviously, I don't think that number is ever going to hit zero or anything close to that. And because of that, they'll always have a number of people to go ahead and promote and fill up those senior level positions. But that's just my knowledge on what I've seen in my kind of distant circle.
Yeah. And Joey mentioned something important. So people who already have skills, definitely they're being pursued by headhunters on LinkedIn or whatever places that people, they get reached out. And it's pretty common because they already have skills, and AI is definitely in 2026 not at the level as a senior person with a lot of business acumen or the common sense, right? So what we call as common sense, like, should we do this or not, right? That kind of common sense. I mean, maybe at a lower level, but not at the level who can take decisions to save lives, right? So there's definitely that AI is not there today, and senior people will probably be okay for the next at least 5 years or hopefully a decade. But what happens to kids who are, or younger people who are just graduating from universities? Previously, they used to be able to get an entry-level job, even if it paid 30-40 grand. That was an entry level for them to eventually make 6 figures. So what happens to them?
That I don't know. I think what will eventually have to happen is that the pendulum will have to swing back, and they will start having to pay attention to entry-level work. But it's a trend we've been fighting for a while. Only a couple of years ago, Boeing was looking for software developers, junior level, or entry level actually, but they wanted 8 years experience. 8 years is not entry level. If the number of programmers doubles every 5 years, that means half half the programmers out there are already senior. So yeah, so that is not that's not the way we solve it. I've heard people say, "Hey, why not trades?" Sam, that graph you showed earlier, the jobs that would least be affected by AI, one of them was trades. But all those jobs that were not going to be affected by AI get harder to do after you turn 40. I'm just going, wow, that's hard on that job is hard on the back. That job is hard on the back. That job is really hard on the back. That's also a problem.
Yeah. So I personally think that until probably 1900s, where engineering, technology, medicine, startups was like a popular thing, I don't think there was a lot of options for people, especially if you look at medieval Europe or any civilization, India, or even in the US. People were farmers or did a certain trade, maybe a blacksmith or a gunsmith or whatever they did.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a lot of options to escape poverty. Maybe in the US, maybe if they were farmers of thousands of acres and they sold it and they figured out supply chains when Rockefeller and all the titans came, maybe they figured out some kind of supply chain with the rail system, distribution, logistics. But before that, there was no option really for a regular person to become to come out of the financial stage that they were already in because of their parents' wealth or the family and the life they were born in. Do you think that is probably going to become that in the future? Because in our generation, my parents could have been poor. I mean, my parents are not, but I've known a lot of my friends whose parents were like really poor, barely made any money and had almost no savings. But through education, they were able to get into an IT job, make 6 figures, and bring their family out of poverty, buy houses, buy cars, buy stuff that their parents and grandparents and their entire ancestors could have never imagined. But because of AI and because of taking away of this high level job, I'll share a statistic of why I'm even saying this. I'm not just saying this randomly because I did some research before this talk, and let me share my screen again.
Sure.
So I asked AI to build me some slides, and these slides were also built by AI within 5 minutes. Like if you look at the slides, AI built the slides in 5 minutes. Like I remember when I used to work at this major bank, my manager, who was a senior director, and I used to work till 2 p.m. to build basic slides like this, like every single day for a week before we went to the management. Anyways, so the thing that I wanted to show was this Anthropic stuff. So I always was like, okay, what happened to these people, right? Like Luddites, for example. So Joey, if possible, please share the story of Luddites in your own words. I'm not getting into details about the shoes, the throwing and everything. I just mentioned them, but it was an interesting thing to learn. But if you look at this, right? So every time something like this happened, they got degraded. I've seen this in some Asian countries where the agriculture income was taken away. They moved to big cities and probably became domestic maids and other stuff and basically found whatever work. That's not an improvement in their quality of life, and often worked under worse conditions. Many sank into long-term poverty. They lost their respected craftsman status, right? And then a lot of the people permanently lost their earning ability. And yeah, so retraining, yes, of course, there was some wage growth after a certain period of time, but many of them basically took a pay cut, like a permanent pay cut, right? And then for people who are like Dakshish, for example, who are about to enter the workforce, it's perfect for them because they already are working. They're starting at this level where again, this AI thing has already been established and they can get into this, and it's going to be the new world for them. But for people who are in mid careers, I think they said something about for those who are already working, automation hits severe long lasting damage. But there's something that I saw about people who enter during mid career. Okay, yeah, mid career workers, right? They do not have the luxury of just thinking that, okay, this is the new normal. We have already seen the normal, which was way higher, and we've already adapted to that lifestyle. So what could we do to, of course, we're going to face this at some point, but what could we do to mitigate this problem? And Joy, in the same lines, if you can also share the story of Luddites and whatever happened, that would be a great um, like a story here. So
Okay, well, the Luddites named themselves after after a figure who was a leader in the movement, Ned Ludd. This is in England, and yeah, these were people who were artisans who were revolting against mechanization. And this happened on both sides of the English Channel. Ned Ludd was in England. There was also another kind of a mythical person that they called Captain Swing. And in the 1830s, these were people who wrote letters threatening industrial farming companies, saying, you know what, we don't like these threshers that you're building. You're taking away jobs from people. And then in France, the automated looms that were doing the weaving of fabrics that were normally done by people, in the beginning, they were actually producing 19th century slop. The fabrics they were producing were subpar and substandard. And to revolt, what the workers used to do is they throw their wooden shoes, which in French the word was sabot, into the looms to jam them up and wreck them. And that is where we get the word sabotage from. Deliberately throwing something into the works to interfere with the process. So yeah, we get a lot of words actually from the industrial age, and that is one thing, is that the industrial age did produce a lot, did have a lot of people who suffered as a result during the transition. But the world we live in now, the very nice, convenient, comfortable world where even the poorest of us lives better than a king from 400 years ago, definitely has a better bathroom. Yeah. Is a product of the industrial age. What we need to do is we need to find a way to smooth the transition for the people who are caught in the gears of this current version of the industrial age now. And we need to figure that out.
yeah,
Yeah, and there's a similar example that I also like to use. It's kind of from the same time period, but the technology of refrigeration, for example, it was a key discovery, and it was really important to preserving food and, you know, all kinds of things. However, the bulk of the money and the bulk of what we know refrigeration as today was not actually based off of the innovation of refrigeration. It was based off of the implementation in companies like, let's say, Coca-Cola, right? Where they had used refrigeration to then create a drink that is now worth, you know, billions of dollars. And I think kind of looking even at a smaller scale and figuring out, this is, you know, a technology. Now, how can I take this and add something to it? How can I put a perspective on it that actually builds on top of it and builds with it, rather than building at the same degree or competing with it?
And actually, the refrigeration story is an interesting point there, because refrigeration back, in fact, if you talk to somebody who grew up in the 1950s, they probably still call their refrigerator the ice box. And that was because the way you used to chill food at home was someone would have to go harvest ice, and then you would buy ice from an ice store and put it in this insulated box, and that would keep your food cold. And then later on, refrigeration just made it possible, given some electricity, you could make ice at home, and you didn't have to go. And that required different thinking, because the ice people just kept thinking, no, innovation meant faster ships, sharper saws, whereas somebody else went, no, no, no. If we decentralize, innovation means let's figure out how we compress Freon gas into a liquid, because that makes cold.
yeah,
We need to think about AI the same way. In fact, the big players right now are like the OpenAIs and the Anthropics are thinking like the ice harvesters. They're going, we need ice storage facilities. That's what data centers are. Whereas we should, and a lot of people are thinking that's why they're buying Mac Minis. Oh, no, no, no. We're going to run our AIs locally, so we don't have to we don't have to keep paying and buying tokens and having to wait 5 hours when we use up our allotment. And we need to think like that as well. That's where the innovation will come.
Is that
Yeah.
based on putting all cell phone towers back in the 2000 periods to provide coverage throughout the US at a more localized points, as opposed to having one central data center that takes hours of data between points, nodes, and selection parsers?
Yes, that decentralization. And that also follows the industrial age. In the beginning, everybody thought, oh, you know what? Every factory will have one giant motor, and eventually every house will have one giant motor, and we'll attach pulleys to that motor and we'll have it drive everything. And in the end, people said, no, no, no. The better way is let's have appropriately sized motors to do the work in our factories or in our house. And in fact, if you count the number of electric motors in your house, you'll find there's a lot. Anything that moves in a circle has an electric motor in it. Your washer, your dryer, the microwave oven has two, one for the tray and one for the fan that reflects the magnetron rays. So yeah, that's probably where the future is. We need to keep looking at decentralization. The other thing is there is always a small upstart that ends up revolutionizing things. If you ask people in the 70s what the great computer company was, everybody would say, oh yeah, the giants like IBM, like Digital, like Amdahl, and some of these people don't exist anymore. Whereas these sneaky small players, the Microsofts, the Apple, the Tandys, they were the ones who ended up putting computers in every house and in on every desk.
Yeah. So I completely agree with this because, again, for people who are in IT and who have been doing deep stuff, LLMs are not anything new. In fact, I worked on something called as Google's Bard for this one of the big four companies in 2016 or 2017. And it was able to answer questions. This all started in 2015 or 16 timeframe by a Stanford paper called a questioning answer data set by this researcher called Raj Bukhar. I remember doing that research. And we built this Q question answering system for this one of these big four companies that's in Tampa. And it was already answering questions, and it was like a little miracle inside the company that we were working. We basically fed it a bunch of documents. We trained it on some Azure GPUs, and it was answering. So this technology was really up and available in 2017, at least when I fully productionized it. But it only became a mass scale thing in 2023 when OpenAI took thousands of people and used Mechanical Turks. And Mechanical Turk is basically humans training AI, and productionized it. So it's the same story of IBM. Google had this technology. Google could have built a way better LLM if it just allocated a little bit of research budget for this. But OpenAI ended up being the first one to the market. So I completely agree with these little companies could be the ones that would be driving innovation. On the same lines, I wanted to say something else. Okay, I'll probably mention that when I remember. But yeah, thank you, Joey. So I think we are in the last 10 minutes. So I want to focus on two things. So of course, AI is going to hit all of us hard, no doubt about it. I mean, there's going to be income loss, no doubt about it. I mean, I went through that. I used to work for a Silicon Valley companies, including a FANG company. And once I came out of that, started a business, of course, there was a pay loss. Of course, at some point, it eventually is getting back to the levels that it was. But it happens to everybody who works at Google or Facebook, or once they lose their job, it's extremely hard to get back to the income level which they were in their job. And this, I'm not the first one to which this happened. I have known a bunch of people to which this happened. So having said that, what can we do to mitigate this? It's gonna hit us for sure. And I don't even think it's a point of how can we avoid it, but what can we do to mitigate or soften the blow? That would be the main focus. And also, since we have the last 10 minutes, if anybody from audience has any questions, let's open that up. And any of us can try to answer. Yeah.
Well, I would definitely say, you know what, if you have the time and energy, yeah, cultivate a side hustle. that can be a lifesaver. So in my case, Atypical Consulting LLC, I have managed to do all kinds of things, including most recently for the Hammerspace data server data systems out in LA. I was writing an MCP server for them. But the other thing you're going to need with that side hustle is you're going to need a network, because you need that network to promote that side hustle. And yes, it's more work, but we now live in an age where you can communicate with a large customer base pretty much worldwide. I was dealing with West Coast customers. I also had one customer in India, so they were on the other side of the clock, and did some overnight work, and even did some early in the morning calls with them. But that combination is really good insurance against job loss and layoffs. What you do is you keep it in low gear while you have a steady full-time job, but you kick it into high gear the minute that steady full-time job evaporates for layoff or whatever reason.
And I will say it's easier now than ever, because you have the help of so many new AI agents and tools. I saw Sam's AI note taker in the chat. That's a secretary right there. Yep. There are so many different tools like that you can utilize to build those side hustles as well.
Yeah. So I basically let somebody lose their job by using the AI note taker. Okay. So on the same note, I want to say that it's easier to start companies now, because I just want to give an example. Could you have ever imagined in the last 100 years that a 3-person company would be a $10 billion company?
No.
So that happened with Mercury. There's this 22-year-old college kids. So I think Manoj was mentioning something about using humans, engineers, lawyers, and using their expertise to train AI, right? That's exactly what Mercor, MERCOR, Mercury AI does. It was started by this 20-year-old kids, I think 22-year-old kids. And in the most recent valuation, they raised maybe $350 million, and their current valuation is at $10 billion. And each of them own 22% of the company after giving away the investor share and everything else. So 22-year-old billionaires made with AI. And the company started in 3 years. So 3-year-old company, 22-year-old kids, 3 people, $10 billion company. I don't think this could have ever happened in the history of mankind if it wasn't for AI. I don't think, right? Maybe not even Mark Zuckerberg hit $1 billion. Maybe in his late 30s, maybe, or mid 30s, but not as early as 22. So this is a great opportunity. As Joey said, I kind of agree. If you could start a business, of course, doing it the right way, the legal way, following all the compliance, this could be the greatest opportunity of our lifetimes.
One of the things to keep in mind, yes, is that any idea that seems too ridiculous at first, you should experiment. You should experiment with AI. It is there are ways to apply it that you can get multiplicative effects that you otherwise would not have. This is a way for you to expand what you can do by yourself. That's for sure. There's an old Scientific American study where they rated various animals on their efficiency, how much energy, how far they could travel based on a certain number of calories. And humans were terrible. The great condor was the most energy efficient animal. An unassisted human was terrible. But once you put a human on a bicycle, they became the most efficient animal out of the entire animal kingdom. And you should treat AI like, to borrow a Steve Jobs quote, a bicycle for the mind. This is a way to multiply your power. And we're gonna have all kinds of meetups. I have been coordinating with Sam's meetup through Amar. Sam's part of the Java user group. A whole bunch of AI AI Talks, where I talk about certain concrete applications of AI to expand what one person alone can do.
That's awesome. Thank you, Joey. So we have about the last 5 minutes left. I know Anitra is here. Anitra is Joey's amazing wife. So of course, wife, amazing wife is, of course, she is amazing. But so Anitra, would you like to? And Anitra is the Scrum of Scrum Masters at one of the biggest retail companies, at least in Florida. So Anitra, at your company, seeing what you're seeing, you deal with multiple teams, and I don't know what you've been doing lately, but what do you see that AI is doing that you haven't seen 5 years ago or 4 years ago?
I've noticed that it's really opening people up to just more innovative ideas, just possibilities. I think that especially in a large organization, it's so easy to get into the routine, just doing the same thing the same way for, day after day, year after year. Whereas with all the change happening, it really has kind of gotten people interested in what's possible, what better ways might there be to do things. I think just that shakeup alone can be really powerful, because that's a way that a lot of internal innovation can kind of ride that wave. And any place, as I said, whether it's in your personal life or in an organization, I find it can be very invigorating. A bit chaotic at times, but if you can kind of channel it and funnel it in a positive way, it can have a lot of really good net effects. But I mean, like any sort of thing where there's a lot of energy, I see it, if you can channel the wave, channel the water, you can really have it be controlled, but it can also turn into like a tidal wave that can overwhelm and just create more damage and chaos. So it's a matter of how you kind of take advantage of it, funnel it, really try to make the most of it, and really trying to just kind of surf that wave and kind of keep going with it and being open to the change, because it's things are going to change whether or not you change yourself.
Perfect. Thank you, Anitra. So I know we haven't opened time for questions, but we can go past by 3 or 4 more minutes. Does anyone have any last or final questions? If you don't want to open your audio, please feel free to type it in chat.
I have a quick question, Sam. Is there a way of following up discussions with Joey or your other guest speaker for shooting some ideas across? Because sometimes it's much more than 4 minutes. I would like to have a second meeting, maybe next week or so, just to, because I'm already thinking of certain solutions and ways of minimizing job losses, but it's more than just 3-4 minutes discussing.
Okay, Joey, this is your opportunity to shoot. He has this company called Atypical Consulting. First 15 minutes is free. let Joey answer this.
But I think Manoj is talking about having a open discussion. I would be open to having another one of these sessions. Let's figure out when we can do it. But yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? We have a lot of audience. Come on now. I need one question from the audience.
One question.
One. Come on.
Oh, and in the meantime, if you're thinking up a question, this is my recommendation to everybody right now. Because of the situation in the Gulf, the world supply of helium has dropped, and you need helium to make high-end chips. And inventories of really good computers are vanishing quickly. If you wanted to upgrade, do it now.
Okay, I just bought a Mac. And Joey, trust me, I was on the fence of whether to buy this M5 Mac that I bought, but then I saw I guess your post on LinkedIn, I believe, or something about, I saw that. I'm like, okay, this is a sign, and I bought my M5, and I love it. So,
the M5 is fantastic. Yeah. It runs local models like a dream.
Yes, I love it. Okay, Tiago is here. Tiago, do you want to go, please? Yep. Okay, Tiago, raise this hand.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, hey. Hey, how are you? So, sorry about the noise. I'm in the gym right now. Just to say that my company is hiring contractors for DeepStream specialist, DeepStream 9 with MEV 3DT. If someone knows about it or knows someone that is specialist, AI is taking jobs right now. So. And we are a company that we are building a laser system to help security. Let's put it that way.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. By the way, Tiago, your audio, it's a little hard to hear, but I know what you were talking about. So he was just basically saying his company is looking for somebody with NVIDIA DeepStream 9 and MV3DT. That's very specialized AI stuff. But if you know it, you really want to talk to Tiago, message me on LinkedIn and I'll connect you with him. I don't know anybody who knows
Thank
that
you.
stuff.
Thank you. Teja.
It's very specialized. Yeah.
Okay, we can take one last question because we started for 4 minutes past 8. So we'll take one last question and we'll call it. Yeah. Okay, going once, going twice, and that's it. Okay. Thank you so much, Dakshish and Joey. Again, really, I know this wasn't a lot of notice for everybody, but I love it. I personally learned a lot of good stuff. I believe the audience took something out of this. The building multiple streams of income is definitely one of them. I would recommend because that definitely helped me, I guess, in a way. Uh, and yeah, networking. The two takeaways that I could take on how do you mitigate yourself from this is networking. And this meetings like this, we do a lot of meetups. Joey runs a lot of meetups. Connect with us. Spend one day a week, a couple of hours meeting other people to see what they're doing, because people trust people that they meet more, right? If you see somebody online or if you get a call from somebody selling you something, whom do you trust more? Do you trust somebody who you meet in person and shook hands and know a little bit about them, or know which area of Tampa they live in, or somebody who just call you randomly? So it's the same analogy that goes. So building multiple streams of income with AI, building companies is way easier. I just gave an example of Mercor AI. And the second example and the second action item is networking. If you want to take with two things out of this session, these are the two things. Thank you, Joey, and thank you, Dakshish, for spending your time. I'll see you on in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, and thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.